What's up, guys? Thanks for listening to the show. So you listen to the Just Go For It podcast. I'm your host, Pearson. As usual, episodes are short. They're pretty clean. I do some editing, but not a ton of editing. Try to keep it as authentic as I can. As I mentioned in the last show, I was going to get some guests on. Here with me today is my good buddy, Josiah. We worked together for about a year, went through a lot of stuff together. So just going to have him talk about a couple things that we usually talk about. As usual, the best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram. Just Go For It podcast, all one word. I'm sorry, Just Go For It podcast. Yeah, all one word. I check it, but not super often. I do have the notifications turned on, so if you find something that you want me to talk about or look into, let me know, and we'll go from there. So today is our Thursday podcast. It's also going to be Thanksgiving. So what? Eat some turkey, have a good day, talk to family, be thankful, all those good things. We'll dive into that a little bit later, but first I want to talk about um, outlook and how your outlook that you can have on your day can really affect your day and how it can kind of work together with the rest of your family. So, for example, Josiah and I, we work together at a construction company, construction-esque. Um, there'd be really some crappy situations that we would be in, and it was just super, super difficult to kind of see that silver lining and to get through that. So it's interesting to know that what you're thinking about can affect you and the people around you. So hand it off to Josiah for a second so he can kind of introduce himself and what he's got going on, and we'll kind of spitball back and forth.
Well, hey there, Pearson. First off, I want to say thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, dude, appreciate it.
Yeah. So secondly, yeah, I'm Josiah, as you stated. I have a podcast that is kind of in flux, but aside from that, I think I'm just an ordinary guy. That's like how I like to think of myself, and I go through trials just like anybody else does. And I mean, I spend a lot of time trying to dive into those things and understand like how do you navigate those waters, you know? So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I totally understand and agree. And I think something that I was thinking about is a lot of people really, really try to find like that perfect job for them that is going to fulfill their goals and make them happy and pay all their bills. And I think something that I've come to personally recently is knowing that sometimes a job can be just a job, right? You know, it's just income that you need to pay your bills, and that's going to allow you to do other stuff outside of your job. For example, I never thought I would start a podcast, but here we are.
right, right.
So it's really, really cool, you know, looking past like your job and seeing that it's okay to have a job that just pays your bills. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of strain in modern society that, like, if you feel like it's not leading to something, that automatically thinks, like, people think you're failing, or you might even think that you're failing. And I don't think that's necessarily the issue. I think it's all perspective. And I think if you look at a situation and say, hey, you know, I'm shifting my perspective and saying, I'm paying all my bills and my kids are fed. I'm able to go do a date night with my wife and we can put some money away. At the end of the day, I would call that a success. I don't think people need to put this extra strain on them that like tomorrow I have to be a CEO or else my life is for nothing. You know, I think it's
Yeah.
all perspective.
No, I totally agree. Actually, I did an earlier episode on perspective, and I was mentioning just that. It's like I look at like my job I have now. I think for all intents and purposes, it kind of sucks. But like it's basically free food. I get out pretty early most days, and that allows me to actually spend more time with the wife and the kids. So it's like understanding that, looking at the, I guess, like my work specific perks, the free food and getting out early. Those things for me outweigh kind of like the dissatisfaction of the job in general, just because I know that I can get home early, I can have dinner with the wife and kids, you know, I get to play, actually like be a part of their life versus that standard like a 9 to 5 position where that's the meat and potatoes of the day. You know, it's a long time.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Um, so something else that I wanted to touch on too, with especially with jobs and kind of trying to find that positive outlook and perspective, if you can find different ways to, you know, like quote unquote do less or do more with less, like sometimes, especially I know for right now when there's COVID going on in the world and things are closing and budgets are getting tight and everyone's really trying to like reevaluate their budget, it's like knowing that maybe you mentioned date night, going on a date night. I used to love going on date nights with Rachel, my wife, and now it's more of like, all right, well, let's just cook something at home, save a little bit of money, but for the most part, you're still having a good time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too, is like I know guys that are single, or they're married with no kids, and they're like, yeah, we're going out to do this and that, and like there's that part of you that's like, oh man, I wish I could do that too. But at the same time, it's again looking at perspective, right? So it's like, well, what do I have that they don't have? And it's not to be comparison based, it's just to say, like, to count your own chickens instead of counting someone else's. Like, look at
Yeah.
your own life and say, okay, like, what are the perks of your life? You get to enjoy your wife and your children, and that's not something that they necessarily understand because they don't have kids. But that's not to take away from their life or for them to take away from your life. Like, it's all like, those are the perks of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally get that. And I think that's relative to each person too. Just like you said, it's
Right.
every person has their own set of like, um, their own values that are important to them and their own things that they really hold high. And I think that when you can learn what those are for you, you're going to really setting yourself up for being happier on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And
Yeah.
like, going back to the jobs, I don't want to detract too much, but like you were saying, like, you get free food and all that, like, that's a huge perk, that in itself. But like, even like I know you, so like you work alone, and that sometimes can be a perk. Like, sometimes maybe like a job might be like, well, shoot, if I had an extra set of hands, boy, that would be great. But for the most time, you're left with your thoughts, and you can really grow as a man or grow as a person, depending on who's listening. You know what I'm saying? But like,
Yeah.
that is a perk within itself. Like, just to have that space and that time to be alone with your thoughts and understand and break things down, like, that's a perk in itself. So again, it's perspective, I think.
Yeah, I didn't even actually think about that and consider that, but you're right. I do spend a lot of time at work actually thinking about the podcast. And I like rerun through like the points I've had and different things I want to talk about and think about like who to reach out to next for the show. Um, I didn't even consider that. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite moments at work are when I'm alone.
Dude, I remember all the times we had there. It was just you have a podcast on, I have a podcast on. It was just getting stuff done.
Yep.
And it's like that's all we need.
Hammer down, and we're in each other's presence, and like, I enjoy you, and and like, but we're getting things done. We're in our own worlds that are circling the same world. Like, we're getting stuff done together while being alone.
I follow what you're saying. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Kind of. It made sense in my head anyway.
No, it sounds good. We'll edit it. We'll edit it, and we'll make it flow.
Yeah, maybe just cut it out.
Oh, good times, dude. So one of the last things I want to talk about, I think in the show notes that you were reading earlier, so you weren't sure if it's kind of fitness related, but I think it's helpful to. So stress is a huge thing for a lot of people,
Hmm.
and like I just using my own examples for work. When I get home from work and I'm stressed out, it's so hard to like just turn that off and go from like work mode to home dad mode.
Right.
It's possible, but it's just super difficult. So finding little things that you can do to throughout your day or when you get home to kind of alleviate some stress can just dramatically improve your life. I put down there see Tuesday's episode. So my Tuesday episode, if you're anyone that's new to the show or new to listening, is all about training and fitness. I don't have a lot of nutrition talk in there just because personally I don't feel comfortable enough with my knowledge to start like directing it to other people and helping other people. But I do want to get to that point. I might have somebody else on the show at some point too who has a nutrition background, but different little things, simple as just like getting out there and going for a walk gets the blood flow, gets hormones balanced, and it kind of really helps you on a physical level, alleviate some of that stress. And Josiah, I remember from when we worked together, construction's a physical job. Like you're up and down, you're on a slope, you're carrying stuff, you're moving stuff. So I think that in itself is kind of giving you that little bit of that workout to kind of help even things out. What do you think?
No, I definitely do. But like, at the end of the day, sometimes, like you said, you still need that little bit, that
Oh
wind
yeah.
period, and sometimes it's as simple as like, you pull in the driveway and like, whew, it's not that my kids and my wife are terrible. it just, you don't want to carry your crap from work back over. So you need that little wind down. And sometimes it's as simple as like just stepping out on the deck and getting some fresh air, or,
Oh,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, just something. But like, yeah, you do get a fair amount of fitness from, doing construction. I mean, depending on what type of construction, I would say like you might be getting a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we had that job up, I don't know, it was up north, and we were trying to break apart this concrete wall with sledgehammers. Like, what? Why were we doing that? I don't know, but it was tough.
Yeah, dude, I don't think I know why.
Oh man. But yeah, I think like having something I heard from another podcast, and the thing is, I don't remember whose podcast it was, but the guy was saying how he gets home from work and he just takes like a couple minutes in his car and just kind of like has like a mental dump. Like, just get rid of the work stuff, just get rid of stress, arguments, meetings, emails, just kind of just like, okay, I'm home, I'm in dad mode, I got to talk to the kids, I got to talk to my wife, I got to show them love and appreciation and kindness, and not carry that toxic mood from work home. But at the same time, I guess if people have a good job that they like, they don't even have to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but at the same time, it's like, it's very important to do that toxic dump, because otherwise, if you don't, you just try to power through it, then your wife is telling you about her day, and you're like half listening because you have something on your mind, and now you're laying in bed and you're trying to recall that thing that she was telling you about, and you're like really racking your brain, and it's like it detracts from so much. So if it takes 5 minutes to just decompress and get rid of that, then I think you got to take that time. It's for the benefit of everyone.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And that's something that I've tried to do most days. I admit I'm human. I don't do it every day, but I try to spend some time on that decompression and that kind of like mental dump. And
Right.
it does make a big difference when I remember to do it. When I don't, it's not terrible, but it does affect me a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you live in your head. You know what I'm saying? You know how you feel at all times. So it's like when it's working great, or when you're skating by, or when you're cheating the system. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, the adjustments you got to make.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, you know me pretty well. I think for me personally, I spend a lot of time in my head just thinking, especially now with thinking about the podcast and thinking about all these different things I've got to try to balance. And this actually wasn't in my show notes, but something that like it's easy to spend too much time in your head and spend too much time wrapped up in thought and just thinking. And
Right.
I think for me, now that we got our little one, we got little Milo, dude's 16 months, so that happened fast. But like he is, and anyone who has kids, you've got kids too, like a child is consuming. They need and they also deserve all of your attention. If you look away
Right.
from him for 15 seconds, he's on the table. How did he get on the table?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so on one note, it's really interesting because you have to give them all your attention. On the other hand, it's almost therapeutic for me to know that it's like, okay, I can kind of just like, again, another brain dump. And like, okay, he can crawl and walk and climb. I've got like 4 things to be concerned with about, and then where'd the smell come from?
Right. Yeah. I find honestly, like for me, like that's a constant reminder that like it's very sobering to look at my children, and they need things that they can't get on their own. It's a reminder that like, hey, there's things bigger than me. Like I need to put myself aside and understand that like I have my place, but I produce offspring and they are now more important than I am. So like stop with my ego, like, yeah,
Yeah,
rough day, tough man, pay attention.
yeah,
you know
because their needs. I mean, it's still a basic human need, but it's
right.
it's so much simpler.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that going all the way back to infant toddler was such a game changer. I mean, our older boys can pretty much take care of themselves. If they're hungry, they can get food, they can turn on the TV, they can read a book. But like little dude, his needs are so basic and so simple to know that just like all he wants to do sometimes, he's just like, pick me up, I'll be held so I can see more stuff.
Yeah.
It's it it's like you said, it's kind of humbling and a little bit sobering to know that it's just like he is so dependent on you. So obviously that sense of feeling that needed and feeling like someone's depending on you, that feels good. That's nice.
Yeah.
But it's
Everyone
also
wanted.
Yeah, everyone does want to feel wanted. It's nice to kind of have that be like, to be that rock, that foundation for someone else. I mean,
Right.
obviously with Rachel and my wife, we are each other's foundation, but knowing that there's another little human who all he needs is you to feed him and hold him, and it's like, I love it.
Yep. Yeah, it's very rewarding in of itself.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that we both love food and we both love to eat. So something I found that was helpful in stress reduction, I think, I kind of just dovetail back to that thing for a second. So omega-3s, EPA, DHA, vitamin E, and polyphenols are all things that can help like increase your blood flow. Increases your blood flow, increases your brain health. Brain health reduces your stress. Totally unrelated to what we were just talking about. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this in the episode. As I was reading it, I was like, this has nothing to do with kids or like being happy or anything at all. But it's like, boop.
Well, we're here now.
Yep. Well, that's all I had to say about it too.
Oh, okay.
Just a healthy diet reduces stress. Also,
Right.
playing with your kids. That's it.
Dude, diet is huge. Like, I eat admittedly like garbage. I'm the equivalent of a human raccoon. I eat, and I know it, and I know it's bad for me. But like, there's a difference between the days that I like actually do eat like a salad, and I drink my water. Maybe a salad is loose. Like, I don't want to be the guy like, I had a salad and now I'm healthy. But you know what I mean? Like, when you eat better versus when you eat like crap, like, you can tell the next day or even that day.
Oh
And so,
yeah.
and it registers in my brain that like, whoa, why don't you do this more often? And I always find that like that's the tricky part of it, is like it becomes a discipline. Like, it's not always easy to eat healthy, and you would think that it would be as simple as go to the store and buy vegetables and now you're eating healthy. But it's like a discipline that I think it's tricky to navigate.
It
You know
is.
what I mean?
No, I totally get what you mean. So like before working at Atlanta, kind of you in the beginning, I was super into fitness and training every day, and kind of like at that point it becomes such a technical thing, kind of keeping your diet in check, keeping all your macros in check just to get as lean as you can. And I think that, like you said, it does become a discipline. Something for me. So like I work on a vending truck, right? I have literally, no exaggeration, unlimited access to unlimited foods.
Right.
So I could eat whatever I wanted every day. I have the healthy options and I have the not healthy options. And I would like to say I make the better choice more often than not, but I don't.
Right.
It's so easy to just be like, okay, I'm busy, I'm doing some stuff. Oh man, you know what? That cinnamon roll looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing you know, I've eaten 3 of them. It's like,
Right.
oh man, I'm spiraling out of control. What am I doing with my life?
Yeah. You're giving yourself that shame talk.
Yeah, it happens really quick too. It's now I'll admit too, I do have days where I do eat better food. I do have the salad, or I have the chicken or turkey sandwich, and the thing is, those are all available to me.
Right.
So just like you're saying, how it's a discipline, it's really easy to fall off of that train
Mm-hmm.
versus staying on that train. It's
Right.
it's tough.
It is, and at one point you and I working together, we did or we started to do what was it, the first form fitness challenge, 90 days or however long it was. And I remember
Oh yeah, yeah.
going like really hard at it. I was eating quinoa and baked chicken every day, and boy was that boring. You
Yeah.
could see the results, and admittedly, I was my own what's the word? Like I failed. I don't know. I'm thinking of something, but I failed.
Okay.
It's so easy to be like, yeah, well, the guy we work with, he didn't bring lunch today, so we got to drive him down to Taco Bell, and man, that smells good and it's cheap, and like you get that inner dialogue, and it can
Oh
break
yeah.
that discipline so stinking easy.
It does. And the thing, just like you were saying there, to driving to Taco Bell just because somebody else forgot their lunch. I remember those days. And I remember I had a lunch packed and like ready to go. And we were at Taco Bell in the drive-thru, and I was like, you know what? That quesadilla looks real good right now.
Real good.
It's it's one of those things where like there's always going to be temptation. There's always going to be different foods and different diet plans kind of just all around you.
Right.
And I think that like something that I learned is, I think it's like the 80-20 rule or something to that effect. Like, if for the most part you are on track with your diet, don't worry about it.
Right.
Like having, a snack here and there, or having like a junk meal here and there is not going to detract too much from your diet if for the rest of your day you're still on track. You'll be okay.
Right.
And I think that sometimes, especially if you're having a crappy day, or if things are going weird, or, let's say like I did, I forgot my fork at home one day. So I had a bowl of spaghetti and I had nothing to eat it with.
Oh yeah.
So it's okay to have those kind of cheat meals. It'll be all right. And I think that can be helpful too, in your mood. Kind of breaks the monotony up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's why they call it comfort food, right? Like it feels good.
It does. I don't know, dude. That pretty much covers like a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about in the episode. But so I think you've listened to a couple of my episodes. Basically, I've got Tuesdays I now name them Tactical Tuesdays because it's just
Nice.
kind of a catchy name, right?
Yeah.
Is all fitness and training. And Thursdays pretty much an open book. But I usually try to center it around like positivity and self-improvement and kind of developing yourself and finding yourself. I don't really have like a niche that I fit into quite yet, I think. But so if there's anything else you want to talk about, any other topic you want to bring up, or just kind of air something out.
I can't really think of anything. I do want to tell you though that I am subscribed to your podcast, and admit it, I'm one episode behind, but I do listen, and I make a point of listening. Like, so I'm more than just your friend. I'm also a supporter. Like I think this is great. You finding your voice, and I think that is actually a hard part. Like for me, like my podcast is at a stall because I don't think that I came out swinging, but I don't think that's who I truly am. You know what I'm saying? So
Right, yeah.
I think it's hard to find your voice, but I mean, you stuck with it, and man, I had to you.
Dude, so it's funny you say that. So the next episode that I'm actually planning is literally about that, is about figuring out who you are. I don't have a title for it yet, but I think one of my first lines is hitting my stride at 31.
Right.
So it's like figuring out, I guess I don't want to go too much into it because I'm going to burn into my next episode,
Right.
but it's pretty much that thing, like discovering like who you are can help you with who you want to be.
Yeah.
I love it. So, yeah, it was. I admit I had my first couple episodes were a little shaky. I admit my audio got weird. Like I got a new mic and this mic is killer. Um, I just learned how to use Adobe, the audio editor. I think it's called Audition.
Okay.
So I can like edit sound effects in. I can kind of clean it up and change the volume levels and clear out background noise. I can do all that stuff. I've gone through a couple tutorials, but there's so much you can do. So I haven't really fully got the grasp of it yet.
Right.
But yeah, in the beginning, the first episodes were tough. And I felt nervous. You're kind of like stuttering in front of the mic and you think like, oh, people are going to hear this. And it's like,
Yeah. You know, I realize that I don't breathe when I'm doing a podcast. Like
you don't breathe.
no, I'm like talking. And I find that like in my head, I'm like, you're talking really fast. It's because I haven't taken a breath yet, It's like I'm so nervous, but no one's in the room. Like I can't understand it. I think it's just that nervousness of somebody's gonna hear this, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I sound like, And it's just again finding your voice. And I think that's so key. And I think even more than podcasting, that's just key. It's more of a testament to who you are as a person. You got to find who you are as a person.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's like life's mystery. Who are we? Why are we here? All those things. I think that's why it's so hard.
Dude, it's tough. It's really hard sometimes, especially like, I mean, I think just recently I've been getting to figure out, I don't want to say figuring out who I am because I don't know who I'm going to be in 5 years. But I think like at this point in time, I've got a pretty good grasp on like who I am as a person and at least where I want to go for the next couple years because it's always changing.
Right.
So.
Well, I had a thought the other day, and I don't want to hold you up too much, but I had a thought the other day, and I thought if you're not contradicting yourself at some point, I don't think you're growing. You know
Interesting.
What I mean?
Okay.
There's things that I said and that I stood on when I was 17 that now I would totally take back and say the exact opposite. And I think that's just a testament to growth.
Okay, yeah. No, absolutely.
Like there's views and things that I've had that I don't hold those same values. And, you know, like I would be outwardly spoken about it like, well, that's not how I feel. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I actually feel the opposite of that, you know? So some person from my past might be like, well, you're contradicting yourself. And I'm like, no, I would counter and say I've grown.
I like that. Yeah. And it's funny too. So thinking back to that, like before I met Rachel and like the person I was such a different person than the person I am now. And I think just on that note, I would contradict a lot of the statements I made back then.
Right.
Like my whole lifestyle has changed. And I like how you said contradicting yourself, but I think for me too, it's not about contradicting myself. It's more about like proving myself that I'm a better version than I once was. Not necessarily that I was wrong, but that I now see it differently, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It's nice to look back and kind of realize like, man, I turned into a man.
You leveled up. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, dude. I think that's pretty much a wrap.
Okay.
All right. I don't know how much of this I was gonna keep almost all of it probably in the episode. If you're cool with that.
Yeah, minus my stupid analogy about being two orbits around the same sun or whatever.
Okay.
That.
If you really want, I'll cut it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. Keep it,
Okay.
don't. It's up to you.
Yeah. All right. We'll do the outro. All right, guys. So that pretty much concludes the episode for today. This was the Just Go For It podcast with special guest in the house, Josiah Gutknecht.
Woo-hoo.
Josiah, I don't know if you're on social or anything, so I'm gonna kind of leave it up to you in the air if you wanted to chime in. But for the podcast, the best way to get a hold of us and kind of comment back is through Instagram. Just Go For It podcast, all one word. I check there pretty often. Send me a message in the DMs or comment on some of the posts. I think I did a post today. I'll probably also do a post tomorrow. I like to do a post on new episode day, so at least Tuesday, Thursday, and if I find something else that's kind of cool. Josiah, you have anything you want to add in before we cut it out for the day?
Yeah, you know, this really lit a fire under my butt, and I want to get back to podding. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Understanding Yourself podcast. And now that I said that, I have to reciprocate.
You did it. You started a fire under yourself just there.
There we go. So I'll be back. You can find me there, and there we go. But
All
I
right.
want to say this is an honor, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
Dude, thank you. It means a lot to me that you are on the show. You took the time. I know we in the beginning, actually I say in the beginning, but like before podcasting, we talked about doing a show together and co-hosting. I know that kind of now you've got your own show going on. I've got my own show, but I'd love to have you at least once in a while as like a recurring guest.
Yeah, for sure. I would love that. And you know, who's to say that we don't spawn a spinoff and still keep our own things, but also have, you know, another one. Who knows? We'll see what the cards hold, but
we'll see what tomorrow brings.
I do find this conversation makes it much easier to record when you have two people.
Oh, dude, it does. And I know that. So this is through Zoom, guys. I mean, it's audio, so you can't tell, but it's through Zoom. So there's a little bit of a lag sometimes just because of the internet. So going back and forth. Dude, I know we talked about doing in person, face to face. So the mic I got, I just bragging about Blue Yeti again. There we go. There's a setting where it can pick up exclusively forward facing or like front forward backward. So like we could use the same mic and it's going to block out the sides but pick up just our voices forward and backward versus side to side.
Nice.
So if it did come to a point where we were in the same place, we could use one mic on the same system and everything's a little bit easier versus using two mics to the same system and kind of juggling that around. So
yeah. Well, I'm
all
down.
right.
Whatever you want to do, I'm here for you, brother.
Oh, dude, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in to the show. I'll catch you next time. Have a good day, guys.